Hello, everyone. My name is Nicolas Helssen. I am the ESA Business Applications Ambassador. I work for the Belgian Science Policy Office, as well as the European Space Agency. And today I'd like to talk a bit about space technologies for drones, and more specifically, some opportunities at the European Space Agency for drone players for some of the calls and open competitions that we are launching in the next few months. So to start, the purpose of the European Space Agency is, of course, to have space technologies to launch instruments, launchers into space. But recently, there has also been an urge to go more to downstream space applications. So this means trying to see how space technologies are relevant to integrate in commercial and terrestrial space applications. And I think this is what fits a bit more what people here at the event are trying to look forward to. So the purpose of ESA in general is it's active in a lot of different fields. So as you can see, space transportation, science, and human spaceflight is what we would most commonly think about when we think about the European Space Agency. But what we've tried to do in the last few years is launch a program that looks at integrating space technologies, non-space terrestrial technologies, and turn them into viable commercial solutions, and to fund and support entities or commercial entrepreneurs that are trying to do this. And this program is called ESA Space Solutions, and this is what I want to talk to you about today. So the ESA Space Solutions network within ESA is actually not something residing within the space agency, but it's a network of brokers spread across Europe. And they are the ambassadors or brokers that you can contact to see how your solution or how your commercial development could fit within one of these programs. So all these people are spread across Europe to help you try and find funding if you would like to develop something using space technology, and in this case, integrated within a drone application, for instance. So what does the program offer? The program itself is actually spread across multiple programs, but the entire goal is to create a one-stop shop for you to basically come to ESA Space Solutions and select the program that is most relevant for you. Of course, the primary goal is to offer funding. This can range from 50K to 2 million per activity, but of course you have other things that are on offer, such as personalized ESA consultants, technical support and guidance, project management support, and of course also the credibility of the ESA brand, especially for young players or startups. This is quite relevant because the credibility of the ESA brand can help with investors, can help with loans from financial institutions, etc. So you might be wondering what the possible application areas are. Well, it's quite simple, really, because what we're looking for is any type of space technology. If it can be integrated in a commercial solution for any type of market on Earth, like you can see on the right side of the screen, you could be eligible to receive funding and technical support from ESA Space Solutions. So for instance, if you're using drones in precision farming or for agricultural services, these are the types of projects that we fund. If you're looking to use drones for pipeline monitoring, but you need to integrate this with GNSS or any type of satellite communication connectivity, again, this could be an eligible project. If it's drones for safety and security measures, trying to look at emergency or nuclear disasters or biological disasters, etc., again, it's something that could be funded within the program. As well as in this case, for instance, power line monitoring. So any type of service that you could do with a drone where you need positioning, where you need satellite connectivity, or where you need to overlay it with Earth observation data is all relevant for the programs that we have on offer. So here, it's a small example on how satellite Earth observation could complement drones. Because of course we have satellites all across the planet, and there's different types of satellites that can do different types of things. Now, optical and passive satellites basically work like a camera on your phone. They use the reflection of sunlight, of light, to register data and to register a type of image. But of course, if there are clouds, it's not always possible to use these. Now, we do have other types of satellites, such as radar satellites. These radar satellites can go through clouds, but the type of data that they can generate is actually very different from optical satellites, and is quite difficult to comprehend, at least for somebody who's not an expert in using these types of satellites. And so it's always relevant to perhaps also put drones into the layer that can go beneath the clouds and that can offer information on forestry management, environmental management, or any type of service or application. So like I was saying here, you see the optical sensors. Of course, optical sensors is usually also what is put on drones, are very easily interpreted by the human eye, but they do have some other drawbacks, as you can see here on the slide. If we're looking at radar itself, you can see that they can pierce through clouds, but handling this radar data is quite difficult to do. But you do have the ability to detect motion in objects, so it's actually very useful for different types of applications. Here, what you can see, for instance, by using radar data is you have the track, the railway tracks where a train is passing on, but the track is here, and in the data that you would receive, the train actually looks like it's flying across the field. It's because when a radar image comes back, the displacement that is caused by the moving train is actually not putting it at the same place as the track. Now, this is very relevant because if you're trying to detect ground displacements or types of movement in the soil, this type of data is quite useful. Now, what we can do, of course, with satellite data, with drone applications in general, is try to bring these worlds together. So this is a team that was in Colombia using a whole range of drones and sensors that they put on them, different types of gas sensors, and they would fly them over a volcano to measure the volcanic gases and the composition of these gases, because it's quite useful as a forecasting tool for volcano monitoring. And so they're mounted onto these drones, and they can take measurements while they're in the air, of course, which is a lot easier than walking next to it. But of course, this can be complemented with the data that I was just talking about, because this data of satellite data, radar data, can look at swelling and ground deformation. And so basically together, you can create an entire model that can predict volcanic eruptions. So it's a perfect example of how these two worlds can work together. So what are the possible space assets? Well, I've listed some of them here. Now, the ones we see mostly, and I think especially for drones, which is relevant, is any type of navigation, communication, or Earth observation. But if you are using any other type of space flight technology, it could be an algorithm for the processing of data from your drones. It could be a mechanical IP, a type of motorized product that can be implemented onto your drone, any type of thing that it comes from a space IP and is transferred to the manufacturing or the product of your drone could also be eligible. But I think the ones on the left, the three first ones on the left, might be the most relevant ones. So a few other examples is, if we're looking at the types of data that can come from drones or from satellites, the projects that we sometimes see are, for instance, the monitoring of rooftop types. So you can use all types of data, and you can use all types of algorithms to analyze data, either from drones or from satellites. And in this case, for instance, the goal is to see how some of this is useful. So in this case, knowing the typology of different types of rooftops seems like a fun gimmick, but this is the type of information, if done by an AI and if done on a recurrent basis, that is very useful for property insurance. So insurers like to have this type of information. What is the material of the rooftop, the typology for fire insurance, for any other type of insurance. And so this is data from drones and from satellites complemented together, where the algorithms are working together, that can create really commercial businesses, or at least commercial services within a certain package. Another example here, for instance, is looking at the rooftop types. You can also use the spectral bands to see exactly what it is made of. Now, of course, you might wonder, why is this relevant? Well, you can also look at the spectral band of asbestos. And municipalities actually think this is quite an interesting information to know where the asbestos in their communities are still relevant, because of course this is being phased out as much as we possibly can. And gathering this information and selling it to relevant parties or relevant institutions is interesting commercial information. Of course, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all of this is really helping to create new opportunities for the geospatial sector. And one of the examples here, for instance, is looking at the different types of cars that are in parking lots and actually automatically numbering them and seeing how many of them are in the parking lot. Now, this is an image from a Walmart. And there is a company in the United States that is actually doing this for 5,000 of these retail stores. And by calculating how many cars are in the parking lot, you can actually predict what the retailer's sales will be before they actually publish their quarterly earnings. So of course, why is this relevant? Well, in terms of stock picking, this is very, very valuable information. And so much so that, of course, there have been articles about, companies doing this. And here you can see investors are using real-time satellite images to predict retailer sales. Is that cheating? Well, it's using publicly available information, applying AI to it, and creating a commercial service or commercial consultancy business out of it. So all of these types of applications and examples that I'm showing you are things that we fund in our program if you have an idea for this type of project. And of course, you can integrate it in all kinds of web interfaces, tools, and the development and the funding that we offer is to develop the commercial product by integrating the space application in, for instance, a web portal or something as you see on the screen. So that's what we're really trying to do together. Another interesting note is that perhaps companies and entrepreneurs don't know that space is intertwined with the products that they're using or developing more than you might think. And so we had, for instance, Y2k Bug, like when the millennium was rolling over. We had a GPS Y2k Bug 2 years ago. And this is because GPS actually uses 10 bits to store 1 week, which means that all GPS devices approximately every 20 years actually reset. Now, the last time this happened was in 1999. Of course, GPS devices were not as ubiquitous, but in 2019, of course, this was. And so they actually did a reset. And what this caused was actually a lot of issues for a lot of types of applications that use GPS. And so in this example, a lot of Boeings were actually grounded in China because the desk panel of the cockpit thought that the planes were in 1999 because it was resetting to the previous rollover. Now, it's not that the GPS caused the planes to not know where they were, but they had forgotten when they were, because GPS is, of course, also a timing device. And so it's used in a lot of different applications without us really knowing it. But of course, it wasn't only the Boeing. The entire New York City wireless network was down, which manages the traffic lights. You had all the weather balloons from the Bureau of Meteorology that were glitched, monitoring stations, but of course also drones. So GoPro Karma drones were grounded worldwide, and a lot of different types of drones were affected by this for a short period of time because it was corrected quite quickly. But it just goes to show how satellite navigation and a lot of different applications are more intertwined than we might think. So, given all these examples, I think it's quite clear the types of projects that we're looking for. But what we're really trying to see is we're looking for teams that have identified market opportunities, that are already trying to engage customers or stakeholders, and basically have a good business idea. The focus is more on the business than the technology, to be honest. We're really trying to look for space data integrated in a commercial business that has to come to market, and this is where we can help you. So if you have an idea, and if it integrates any type of space data, then basically we can find the program that can offer funding for you. So what we try to show at ESA Business Applications, which is one of the programs under ESA Space Solutions, is that space is open for anyone, and that a lot of the companies that we have are not necessarily space companies. They are companies that are doing something completely different and that might integrate space into part of their portfolio because they have data engineers who are well versed to learn this quite quickly. And so, like I said, we offer zero equity funding, personalized visa consultants, technical and commercial guidance, access to our network, and the credibility of the brand. What we have on our website is also a lot of different calls. So you can come with your own idea. There's a continuously open call for ideas, but you can also tackle one of the thematic calls that is put on the website, as you can see here. Now, the co-funding rates will always vary between 50 and 100%. It kind of depends, which means that if you have an idea that needs 200K funding, we might be able to offer you 100K, at the very least. But you can have a look on the website. A lot of these are also fitting for drone calls in general, but I'll go over this in a minute. You can see here that we have a few calls that are open right now that are quite useful or that quite fitting for drone applications. So one is about resilient utilities, which is closing in February 2022, in a few months. And the goal here is to look at innovative applications which use space for the management of utilities, networks, infrastructure, etc. But here, of course, unmanned aerial inspections are very relevant. So the surveying of structures, pipelines, combined with any type of satellite data, such as Earth observation data, is really relevant because there's quite a few drone businesses that are doing this right now. Another one is about 5G and 6G services. So looking at how drones, how satellites can fit with 5G, 6G applications, what types of new projects are possible with these technologies, these emerging technologies. This is also the type of thing that we fund. And then two others, one, for instance, on edge intelligence, maybe a bit more esoteric for some, but it's really about looking how analysis processes can be removed from the cloud or from data centers to physical locations within a local network. And so it could be interesting for applications, like I put here, for drones in sensitive environments such as airports, large media events, where you would have smart cameras mounted on drones that need to be managed. So all of this could employ georeferencing, could employ satellite connectivity solutions. If there are ideas like this, it's very relevant for this type of call. And then a final one that I found in our system was about Space for Rail, about the European Rail Traffic Management System. Of course, here as well, geographical data gathered by drones to create digital 3D models, very relevant. So if there's a layer where drones are useful and satellites are useful in a commercial solution together for the rail business, let's say, all of this is very relevant, and we could probably fund this type of project. I wanted to close with 3 examples of a few projects with drones that we have running. So here, one of them is Audros. So it's about using drones for the rising danger of any type of chemical, biological, radiological issue. And as you can see on the surface architecture, it's all about focusing on an industry, a user, having the autonomous flight of drones within it, combine it with any type of satellite data connected to a mission unit in this case, and creating a business out of it. So this is what the Audros project was all about. The Rossegma was a drone security management project, really looking at drones that are intruding in an area where they shouldn't, and what kind of countermeasures can we employ, and what kind of surveillance and inspection services can we then do with drones against this type of threat. And again, this was integrating GNSS, SATCOM, etc. And the final one was Flames by Unisphere. So this was really about seeing what the capabilities could be of automated flight management for cases such as the emissions monitoring in a maritime environment or any type of urban drone services. But these are just a few examples. You can go on the link that I put on the slide for many more projects, over 500 projects that all have different types of examples of what we do, and you can search by keyword for UAV or drone to find any type of drone-related project. And here are a few examples of companies that we've worked with. You can see on the upper left corner almost that there is one on drones and flight. This is not exhaustive, but it gives an indication of all of the different startups, SMEs, and companies that we've worked with, and especially all of the different types of application domains. So space is one thing, but space can be relevant for so many different types of industries and sectors. And this is what we're trying to showcase here, that we're really aiming to support any type of startup in any type of industry that can promise us and show us that they can make good use of space-enabled technologies. And so if you'd like to get in touch, you can join on the website business.esa to see all the different applications calls we have, the different projects that we have, and all of the different communication and email addresses for your national delegations, because every country in Europe has their own delegation. If you'd like to get more information on the program, have a chat about what type of project could be relevant that you might be thinking of, is it eligible or not, please do drop me a mail or send me, or you can call me or send me an SMS on my phone. And together, I hope that we can boost your business off the ground. I thank you very much.